Welcome to Create More Intimacy, a podcast for men. I'm Elisa Stoddard, and I help successful men stop chasing sex and start building real connection so they finally feel close, connected, and wanted again. So many men tell me they keep conversations with their wife on the surface, just at surface level, because the moment things get serious, it feels like a fight. That did not start in your marriage. That started a long time ago. Welcome to episode 21, Why Talking Feels So Hard with Your Wife. Think back to how boys and girls are spoken to when they're growing up. Boys are told, don't cry, be tough, shake it off, be a man. And feelings aren't really ever a part of that conversation. Now, girls, on the other hand, they are encouraged to talk and to share and to use words to process things. And here's another layer most men don't realize. As boys, you maybe didn't learn to take words seriously unless someone was yelling. That is when you knew you had to pay attention. That's when it became real. And then fast forward into your marriage and your wife brings something up in a calm way. Maybe she says she's hurt or frustrated. And what happens? You don't really register it. It doesn't land on your radar. Not because you don't care, but because your body was trained years ago to tune messaging out until the volume went up. By the time she does raise her voice, you finally think, oh, okay, this is serious. This escalated fast. But for her, she's already been serious for a long time. And now she feels ignored and disrespected or dismissed even. And the circle is in full swing. Let's dig deeper into why yelling carries so much weight for men. When, as a child, did you know something was serious? Many men tell me it wasn't usually when someone spoke calmly to them. It was when a parent raised their voice, when your dad barked something at you, when a coach shouted something across the field to you, when a teacher or a boss lit into you. And a lot of times, it wasn't just yelling. It was yelling in front of other people, that public correction, and getting called out during practice. And it has that element of being embarrassed in front of your teammates or your classmates or your friends. And that combination of raised voice and shame leaves its mark. Many men learn just to stay quiet, and they don't push back, and they just take it and move on. I worked with a man who remembered being screamed at by his high school coach in front of the entire team. And decades later, when his wife raised her voice, he said it felt like being back on that field. He felt exposed and embarrassed and powerless. That's how deep those old patterns run. So here's what happens in your marriage. When your wife talks to you in a normal tone, your brain does not register what she's saying as urgent. When she repeats herself, you start to feel like she's nagging. And when she finally raises her voice, all of those old associations kick back in. You hear her yelling as correction, as an attack, and then the shame shows up. That's why so many men either shut down or snap back. It's not because they don't care, but because they never learned the skills to handle serious conversations without the old triggers. And because you're often corrected or embarrassed in front of others, you also didn't get much practice with empathy. Nobody modeled that for you. So when your wife comes to you hurt, instead of leaning in, you defend yourself. You shut down. You try to fix things or you fire back. And it leaves her feeling alone in the conversation and worse in the relationship, even when you are sitting right beside her. This is where the disconnect gets very painful. When your wife brings something up more than once, most men think, oh, here we go again. She is nagging me. She is never satisfied. But what you are calling nagging usually is her trying to break through. It's pleading. It's her saying, please hear me before I have to scream. Please take me seriously before I give up altogether. Here's the heartbreaking cycle. She repeats herself because she isn't being heard. He interprets it as nagging. He shuts down or lashes out. She feels disconnected, so she pushes harder. Eventually, after years of this, she blows up or threatens to leave. That is why so many men feel blindsided when they hear, I'm leaving. They tell me, I had no idea she was this unhappy. I thought we were fine. But from her perspective, she has been asking you and giving you cues and chances for years. And the more you shut down, the more she feels like she has to escalate. Okay, guys, I want you to know you're not lazy and you're not clueless. You have just been trained to hear her words differently than she is saying them. She thinks she's communicating, and she is. You think she's complaining, and maybe she is. And both of you feel like the other doesn't care. Let's look at what this cycle creates in a marriage. You lose emotional connection. Conversations shrink down to just logistics. The deeper stuff never gets talked about. You lose trust. She thinks you do not care about her feelings. You think she'll never be satisfied. You lose intimacy because intimacy grows out of safety, and when she doesn't feel heard, she doesn't feel safe. Resentment builds on both sides, and that resentment leaks into the atmosphere of your home. The warmth fades, the distance grows. And here's the part most men don't talk about. You can be successful in business, respected in your community at church, admired by your peers, but when you cannot talk to your wife without it turning into a fight, none of those wins fill that emptiness at home. Silence does not protect a marriage. It starves it. Every avoided conflict, every surface-level conversation takes another layer of closeness off the table. Okay, so what's the way forward? The first shift is recognizing that you and your wife were taught two completely different languages. You were trained that calm words aren't urgent, and yelling is when it gets serious. She was trained that yelling equals shame, and if she has to raise her voice, then she's already been ignored. Neither of you choose that conditioning. But once you see it, you cannot let it run the show. Here's where defensiveness shows up. Your wife makes a bid to connect with you. She shares a feeling or she asks for something. And instead of drawing you closer, it turns into a fight because all you hear is criticism. So it could sound something like this. She'll say, I feel like we don't spend much time together. And you hear, I'm failing as a husband. Or maybe she says, I wish you'd talk to me more. And you hear, I am never enough. I can never do enough. Maybe she says, I feel disconnected. And you hear, you do not matter. Can you see how ugly that trap is? She is reaching for closeness, but your brain interprets it as an attack. And honestly, in your defense, explaining, shutting down, snapping back, it kills the connection she was trying to build. Here's the shift. Stop waiting for yelling to mean something is finally serious enough to pay attention to. And stop treating her bids for connection as attacks. Now, this does not mean that you will never feel defensive, but it does mean you can and should pause long enough to remember that she is not trying to destroy you. She's trying to reach you. When you respond from that place, everything changes. She feels safer. She does not have to push so hard just to be heard. And the conversations that used to spiral, they have a chance of actually bringing you closer. Let's get practical about this. There are 3 things that you can try this week. Number 1, notice when the wall goes up. That's your very first clue. Defensiveness has a signal in your body. Perhaps it's heat in your chest, or that pit in your stomach, or hot face, or that urge to explain yourself. Just saying to yourself, this is that wall going up, gives you space to choose differently. Number 2, buy time with curiosity. When you feel that wall, instead of firing back, ask something like, hey, can you say more about that? Or, what do you mean when you say you feel disconnected? Curiosity shifts the energy, and it tells her, I'm listening, instead of, I'm shutting down. And, bonus, it gives you time to calm yourself down before responding. Number 3, reflect back without making it about your worth. Most men hear her words as, I'm failing, I am not enough. That's not what she's saying. She isn't grading you. She is asking you for connection. So reflect back. So you're saying you feel lonely when I don't engage. Or it sounds like you're asking for more quality time, not just logistics. Even if you don't agree with every detail, reflecting back shows that you are trying. And when you stop making it actually about your worth, then you can stay calmer and more present. Now, is this easy? Definitely not. Defensiveness is a habit, but the more you practice noticing when that wall goes up, slowing it down and leaning in with curiosity, the less trapped you will feel in the old yelling cycle. And if you want a deeper dive into how to ask for what you need in a clearer way, go back to last week's episode 20, where I laid out the Clear Ask tool. It pairs perfectly with what we're talking about today. So here's what I want you to take from today. The way you were raised taught you that yelling meant something was finally serious enough to pay attention to. That training has followed you into your marriage. That's why you sometimes miss her calm bids for connection. It's why you interpret her persistence as nagging. And it's why defensiveness shows up when she's really just trying to reach you. The good news, you are not stuck there. When you recognize the old patterns, you can stop letting them run the show. You can notice when that wall of defensiveness goes up and slow it down. And choose curiosity instead. Here's the payoff. She will feel more heard before she has to yell. You will feel calmer and less attacked. Win. Conversations that used to spiral can actually bring you closer. You do not have to live in a marriage where every conversation feels like a minefield. But you can build a new way of communicating that feels good for both of you. If you're listening to this and realizing, yeah, this is exactly what's happening in my marriage, and I need help with that, well, I'd love to talk to you. You can book a free relationship call with me at elisastoddard.com, and I want to thank you for being here today. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being here. If something in this episode hit home, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more men find the support they need. And if you are ready to get help or take the next step, you'll find the link to book a free call in the show notes. I'll see you next time.